scary, sadistic stuff.
Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer, everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Before we start diving into these details, I just want to preface this video by claiming that today, and the date that this video is going to be posted, is October 28th of 2025. This video was recorded over the course of about 11 days. I had posted it originally, but then took it back down. There were some things in it that I wanted to correct, so this video will have the most up-to-date information on what is actually going on and what isn't going on officially in this case, as far as we can tell. So I'm going to go ahead and let the video get started, and then I'll be here at the very end to add in a couple more details. Okay, we've been following the Celeste, Rivas, Hernandez, and David situation for a while now, and there has still been no arrest and no real answers when it comes to anything that the police have been able to tell us. Now, I'm recording this on October 17th, 2025. Steve Fisher has actually been officially hired by the owner of the rental home where David was staying. Now, remember, David was not on the lease at this Hollywood Hills home. They were paying $20,000 a month to stay there, bro. But it was under Josh Marshall's name. That's his music manager. Something else that I want to add here regarding Josh Marshall, again, David's manager and the person who actually was on the lease for this $20,000 a month rental house in the Hollywood Hills, Steve Fisher, who is again the private investigator hired by the actual owner of the said rental house. That lease was signed by Josh Marshall the exact same day that Celeste was reported missing, which was February 14th, 2024. So if that's true, I'm sure that since he's literally working for the owner of this house, he has the freaking lease right there in his face to confirm this. That means that she would have only been alive maybe a year, a little bit less than a year, before something happened. If the end of January, the way that it's kind of starting to look, is really truly the last time that she was alive, January 2025. According to the things that Steve said in this interview, I don't know how horrible the police reports are going to be once the truth actually comes out. But honestly, a lot of stuff that he said, like what you heard in the intro, matches the sort of mentality that we have seen from David, especially digging into the more internet-based stuff, not really what he puts out to the public so much, but mainly what he shares with his fandom. It definitely tracks. But let's just go ahead and get into the most updated information as we know it. Now, as I stated, Steve Fisher, who is from California and has licensing to be a private investigator in multiple states across the country, he had been keeping track of this story over on Twitter and was finally hired as a private investigator by the owner of the home. I don't know how far his contract with this guy goes when it comes to what can be investigated. So right now, he's really only giving information on what was found out about the home itself and the people surrounding the home, when people go in and out that house, things like that. I found it really interesting that there's nothing that they have really found so far to prove that Celeste was ever actually in that house. That's interesting to me because of the connections that we know that we have seen between David and Celeste. But Steve did claim that there was a camera found in the home, and there are pictures of Celeste on the camera, but none of them were taken inside the house. It looks like maybe a couple of them were in downtown Los Angeles, but he did actually give a date that the last photo that they have seen, and I'm going to assume that it's on this camera, that the last photo date is January 2nd of 2025, which was what? The same month that the Tesla registration expired. And then we know that it got parking tickets in California. Steve Fisher, again, is the one that found that information. He was posting all of this over on Twitter, given the fact that her body was in such a deep decomposition. And stuff with this black Tesla started getting real iffy around January, and that's the last photo that they've seen. That's apparently the last date they've been thinking that she was alive. Up until now, we've been being told that the family and people that are close to Celeste, however you can be close to somebody who you've allowed to just run amok as a damn child, but okay, they've had contact with her up until the end of July. But Steve did post on Twitter, I don't know, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago now, that he was really starting to second guess that because things weren't really adding up. Now, one of the things that we were looking at when we started comparing dates of availability for these kinds of things, considering this was in California, he's from Texas, but he was staying in California. We were looking at late July, early August because of his tour dates. He had a concert July 31st, but there was a lot of time in between. As you can see here, he had a date in April and then nothing again until July, end of July, and then it sort of started rolling. That's pretty much where they're getting the dates from, because something else that Steve Fisher claims is that the Tesla was basically put in its final parking place before it ended up being towed, and then almost immediately a tour bus departed. Okay, so it's actually October the 18th. I'm doing all of my editing. Something else that Steve said when he went on to News Nation with Ashley Banfield was the exact date of this was actually July the 29th. And what date was that concert? What was that? July 30th, the very next day. That tracks. The next day, they were in Phoenix, Arizona. He comes back to California for a show on the 2nd. And then there's the 3rd and the 4th where there's nothing scheduled. And then on the 5th, he actually plays a show at the same place he did on August the 2nd. But Steve is mentioning July. So my brain is sort of going to something happened in January. The registration just expired. Nothing else happened with it. It just got some parking tickets. But something happened in late January, maybe like early February. Now, apparently, according to the surveillance that they've seen, when the Tesla was moved to, again, its final spot before being towed in late July, it was already damaged. It was already dirty. It basically looked the same as it looked as it was towed, which meant that the damage was already there. Because apparently there's not really a lot of proof that, she was ever in that house, like I said, but also like no proof of a crime happening in that house. So I'm sort of wondering if maybe she was hit by the Tesla. Did she pass away from being hit by the car? And so they hit her in the car the whole time? Because something else that was brought up was the red Tesla that was actually inside the garage at the rental house. That lease started February 1st of 2025. So I'm guessing something technically would have had to have happened before the 1st, before the replacement vehicle was needed. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. If this really did happen months and months and months before she was ever found, the fact that it was kept secret for so long is just insane. But at the time of the recording, it looks like even though they have been trying all kinds of different ways to get the search warrant information from the police, they have yet to see the search warrant itself. They've yet to see the inventory report. So the owner doesn't know what was taken because the surveillance cameras and all those things are like his. It wasn't stuff that was put there by Josh Marshall or David's management company. It was stuff that the homeowner had already had on the home. So in all of that, they've been in the house looking around. That's how they found the camera with pictures of Celeste on it from early January 2025, early morning, January 2nd, 2025. But that's where Steve basically starts talking about the possibility that there was some really sad and sadistic things that were maybe being thought of when it comes to disposing of Celeste.
There are some things, and I'm talking physical evidence, that was at that house that there could have been greater plans as far as getting rid of her. And it's scary, sadistic stuff. And it doesn't have to do with how she died, but maybe how they were planning on ultimately getting rid of her.
Like there's things that were apparently in the house that were now turned over. Everything that they've seen has been now turned over to the police. That there was maybe a plan trying to be put together on what to do. And I'm just assuming that there was like tools for certain things maybe found in the house. Why the police wouldn't take that kind of stuff, I don't really quite understand. I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens because, again, it was apparently all given to the cops. So I'm assuming that once this all wraps up, we'll get some sort of information from them. But then again, I don't know because a minor is involved. We have to remember she was found the day after she would have turned 15 years old, and she had been gone for quite some time. But it'd be really interesting to know if after everything was going on, he was like using her devices to text people to make people actually think that she was okay up until the end of July. But then it also makes you really be like, holy shit, that whole Maryland concert with the girl up in the balcony that looks just like her, that was a visual plant. That was done on purpose. That's where my brain is going. Okay, that's where my freaking brain is going with this. So I want to know what you guys are thinking about this situation, because this is getting super wildly insane. Again, what were the words that Steve used? I wrote it down. Scary, sadistic stuff. Oh boy. Okay. Now, a few of those additional details I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I wanted to make sure to add in here at the end is that David has obtained an attorney, which is not a sign of guilt, but on top of all of the other things, in considering the drastic moves that he's been making, it all really sort of comes down to this looks like you're trying to hide something really, really bad. Because not only is this a very prominent celebrity attorney, but this is an attorney named Blair Burke that most people have heard of by now, especially if you're my age and I'm almost 38. This person has worked with everyone from Harvey Weinstein to Mel Gibson to Britney Spears. And again, it's the moves being made that are really suspicious, because if you don't have anything to hide, you don't have a reason to transfer anything that you own out of your name into someone else's name. That usually only happens if you think something's coming, so you can protect your assets, or maybe at least be able to get the monetary value of those assets later in case you're not able to do so yourself. I mean, either you think you're going to go to jail and you're not going to be able to handle these things yourself, so you're giving somebody else all of the power to take care of things for you, or you think somebody's going to come at you civilly and you want to look like you don't have anything, so you're transferring crap out of your name. I mean, it's really one or the other. I don't really see how it could be anything else. But let me know in the comments if you can think of another reason. All I'm saying is that on top of everything else looks just horrible. And how on this date of October the 28th of 2025, with the private investigator coming out and claiming we have camera footage of the person who dropped the car off in its last location before it was towed, and we know it's this person because their social media has them wearing the exact same outfit they were wearing when they dropped the car off, and that person then got on a tour bus and everything got to, everybody left. How do we still not have an arrest for something? Something. I don't understand. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.